But thank you very much for the invitation, and I hope that this debate, this discussion will be interesting, and it has been very interesting for me to try to do this and to meet Ola and Britt beforehand, and I think they are very, very interesting people with very interesting things to say. And I would like to start this chat by asking you if you can describe how the involvement of a patient representative in the project came about.
Yes, actually I was planning not to have a user participation in the ProstOmics because it was the ERC project, basic research, and I thought, oh, that's okay. But I was approached by the Cancer Society, who asked me if I wanted to have a user representative on project level in a basic research project as a pilot project. And I said, not really. I think I was afraid of the workload, and actually in the beginning I said no. But they were really eager to make me have a user representative. And before they asked me, I have met Ola, yes. So I kind of knew him. Yeah. And then they said, Ola will be your user representative. And then I said, okay, maybe I'll do it then. So we had discussions back and forth that they said that this will be no extra workload because he will just be participated in your group meetings, and there will be nothing that you have to do to have user participation. So this was kind of the beginning. Yeah.
And since you have mentioned the fact that when you discovered that the proposed patient representative was Ola, that made change your mind. So can you tell us how did you met Ola before? How come that you two were already...
Maybe I should...
Maybe Ola can take that,
because after when, 5.5 years ago, I read an article in the local newspaper about this big project, an interview with May. And I am a member of the board of the local prostate society. So, and we should have a meeting at Brekstad in Fosen outside Trondheim, open meeting. And I proposed that we should ask May to tell about the project at that meeting. So for some reason she was driving with me because it was a Thursday and I should go further on the weekend out there. We were well known. So I think that was the start that you know me.
Yeah. And, we got to know each other
on
that trip, so I knew more what I was expecting. Yeah.
And Ola, from the perspective of prostate cancer patients, what kind of expectations and hopes do you have from projects, basic science projects like proteomics? Obviously, it's not something that will produce an immediate cure. So, from the point of view of patients, what is really important and interesting about that?
You know, it's several reasons. First, it's the reason that research is necessary to get the new methods, new medicine, and new kind of treatments. But back that, you need basic research, which is quite different from applied research. Also, the role for user. But we found out, I suppose that many of you didn't quite understand what May was talking about when she was in the video. I have been there for 5 years, and I still have large problems with understanding what's going on. But
Did a bad job.
that's because my role is not to be a researcher. It's to being the making Mai and Maria, who is sitting down there, here you are, mind them of that. What people are they researching for? Who is going to have the results? That's me, and other old male have had prostate cancer.
So one main point is to remind the researchers that they're not just working on tissues, but there are human beings
yes,
to which these tissues belong.
Yes, and they should not be afraid of prostate cancer as females. There's no problem.
And Britt, you said that at first you weren't enthusiastic. So can you, as frankly as possible, tell us about your feelings, your thoughts, your worries about having a patient involvement in the ProstOmics project? So, and also, once you changed your mind, what were also the hopes about it? So, what were the fears and what were the hopes?
Yeah, my fears was the workload, because I was thinking that in a project like this, it's hard to do user involvement as I read about it in the Cancer Society, because I was seeing myself just trying to present difficult things to Ola and make him understand difficult things, and that there will be no dialogue. That was kind of I was fearing, and that I needed to arrange things extra with my time. So that was actually my biggest fear. And my hopes, you said, I didn't really have much expectations, but we have already started user participation in the bigger group, where we also do MR imaging, but that's more like patient-near research. So I thought that that would probably be easier for the user to understand. So my biggest fear was that it will be just a one-way communication from me every time we meet, because then it will be, the workload will be on me.
And as a matter of fact, I did not have any clear thoughts about what was I going into when we started 5 years ago. But we found relatively quick out that to participate at the regular project meeting once a month, that was the way to do it.
And the Cancer Society at that time promised me that you can do whatever you do at your meetings. I'm not changing the agenda or anything when he's arriving. And we're still doing that.
Yeah.
And
That's
sometimes I think you can be quite frustrated when you're into the details. But the only thing I do is maybe update you on what happened from last time, because you are not there every week, right? You are there once a month. That's also quite often. But I think the only thing I do is just updating in between what's going on. Now we're discussing the details of blah, blah, blah. And that's also good for the group, I think, that we do that.
I think so, too. And I report a bit back to the board of the Cancer Society, telling what's going on.
Prostate.
Yeah. And I think that we are involved, and it's known by our members. Mai and one of her colleagues, Tone, was last year in a member meeting and told about the project. And Mai has also been in the Nordic or Scandinavian Congress, which was held in Trondheim some years ago, 3 years ago, I think. Yeah. where we both was.
We were invited.
We were invited, yes. So it's how to spread what's going on and what we are working for.
So that's one of the positive sides then. That.
Yeah.
And Ola, how were you feeling when you started your involvement in this project? You told us that even now you are not completely understanding all the aspects, so I guess that you must have felt at least a little nervous, or were you having some worries about being able to act as an intermediary between the prostate cancer society and the project?
I didn't know what I was going into. I have no idea. But I thought, I'm curious. I'm a retired researcher in quite another field. But I still am curious of what's going on. And I want to learn. And I get a lot of opportunities to learn. Even I don't understand everything. And but I think we have found a nice way to do it, to work together. And I am very aware that I am not a researcher in this project. I am a user participant. Yeah.
And Britt, can you explain why the Cancer Society was so important to play? Because you had already your project funded by the ERC, and then we may wonder why the Cancer Society comes and asks you something, and why this comes as a sort of request that is hard to resist. So what is the role of the Cancer Society from the perspective of a researcher?
Yeah, for a cancer researcher, the Cancer Society is very important because they fund research projects, of course. And they are, they have a requirement that you have to argue on your user participation when you apply for money. And I think it was half a year or maybe a year after I was actually funded a Cancer Society project. And at that time, I was actually very happy that I could say that I had user participation, maybe on a higher level than anybody else at that time. And it also was a big discussion, I remember in 2017, which project should have user participation, should people working in a dish have user participation? And all this discussion around that, everybody was kind of requiring that the Cancer Society should kind of define what they wanted. So I think that's also maybe why the Cancer Society asked me to do kind of a pilot project. But we haven't really discussed it with the Cancer Society afterwards. So we don't have any measure on it except our experience.
Maybe I get an opportunity on Tuesday next week, because then it's a day conference in the middle of Norway for user representatives in research. And it's the Cancer Society in the middle of Norway who are standing behind the research. So maybe I get the opportunity to ask about it.
You should, yeah.
And Ola, as compared to the Cancer Society, which is a big society that funds research, can you explain instead what is the role and the kind of interest in research that the prostate cancer organization has? And so what are their expectations from engaging in research, and why they think it is important?
Yes. I think for all the projects and all the research, we are interested in these topics because we want that fewer men get prostate cancer and that fewer men die from prostate cancer. And the methods, I remember it's 15 years ago I was at surgery. They are not doing it the same way today. We are getting new techniques. And this is an all-time running process. We need research to improve the methods, to improve the medicine, and to get, and we are living longer today than we did a generation ago. So it works.
Yeah.
But we have to be patient sometimes.
And in practice, how was the involvement of Ola implemented in the project? So when and how you interact, and how has the process evolved, if it has, during these years?
Actually, it started with the arrangement with the Cancer Society that he will come, and we kind of decided that you can come every fourth week, every once a month. And in the beginning, we actually discussed it a lot after the meetings. Is this useful? Did you get anything out of it?
Yeah.
I was a bit nervous, I had to say. But you said, yeah, I think it's interesting. So, okay. And then you really want to still continue to come? And then say, yes.
Yeah.
And, okay. And then we...
Yes, but you also took me around to the lab.
Yeah.
So I saw the drilling that we saw in the video. So I've been around, and I think I've been well known with all the people, the researchers that works in the project. And yes, so I think, and it's very nice to come, because I'm taking very well, what it could take godt imot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how long did it take before both of you were thinking that this was working and this was worth doing?
Maybe half a year,
Yeah.
something like that.
And also because I started to think about what are the positive effects of having Ola here, and we talked about it.
Yeah, we did.
And I don't know, I was thinking about it, and it gives me kind of a motivation that Ola, as a former patient, he's really interested in the things I'm doing, even if he sometimes thinks it's difficult.
Yes.
And I think also it's kind of motivation for the researchers, the master students. They see that Ola is coming, and he's a former patient, and this means something that you're doing. It's not just your master project or just your... I think this motivation is good.
Yes, I think so.
And it's a reminder for us, as you say,
Yes.
diving up from all the details that we're working with. And also the communication part, because Ola have invited me several times. I mean, it was COVID, there was a bit silence then, but he's invited me to talk to like the general public, and that's also important in our ERC project to communicate. And that's something I report back that I do, and also to understand the patient perspective. That is something I wouldn't have if I was just only working in the bench. Yeah. So I think it's important, and it makes me reflect about it more, I think, because he's there.
And I think we are very agree upon the goals of the project to improve things. What we not so much agree about is the fear of over-treatment, which you might mentioned, because the prostate cancer as a community in Europe, also the urologist, what it's pronounced in English, now want screening, like it's for breast cancer. But then, of course, there's a problem that people can have prostate cancer which don't need to be treated. You can live with it. And therefore, it's very important with the project that are getting better methods to divide between aggressive prostate cancer that should be treated and not aggressive prostate cancer then you can just follow up over years. So, but we live with that. We are a bit disagreeing on this topic. No problem.
It's politics. Yeah.
So from the point of view of the project, I understand that the main benefits have been the motivational one of seeing the real relevance of your work for patients, for real human beings, and the networking elements, that this has opened the project to the possibility of communicating more also outside academia with patient community, and this is a valuable thing. But from the point of view of patients, instead, apart from keeping up with what is happening in research, is there any other benefit or any other thing that the prostate cancer organization has appreciated about your reporting, your keeping them updated?
Yeah. I'm not quite sure what you mean, but the society is concerned about what's going on. We have used representatives in a lot of projects, but this is quite a different project. This is a long-time basic research project. Mostly it's applied research, but we try to participate with user representatives in as many projects as we can. So
there is one positive effect that I believe, but I don't know because we don't have research on that. And I asked Ola because I think the openness showing what basic researchers do, I think is important, and especially in these times when I think basic research is kind of pulled down, and I think maybe that Ola represent and just show and talk about what we are doing in a basic research project, all the things we are struggling with. He knows about GDPR, he knows about ethics committees and all these things that we that we struggle with. And maybe also the skepticism against research. Maybe this openness can give something out to the general public that
yes,
kind of show how we are doing it,
yeah.
how we are using the money that is raised in the Cancer Society by the people.
Yeah.
So would you agree that participating in the project has helped you to see the relevance and the importance also of basic science, that it has made it less remote from...
Yes, maybe, but that's, today is most believe. We don't have facts. So we should have research on it. Does user participants in project improve the project? It's a nice idea to search for money to do.
Actually, I was asking somebody, I don't remember who, about this when I started having Ola, that maybe there should be some research going on when I'm doing this pilot. But they said, oh yeah, that would be very interesting, but we lack funding, so we cannot do it. Yeah, so that was the answer, yeah. So I also think to measure the real value, you need to do research on that.
Because I think it's about 5 years that the Research Council, the Cancer Society, Helse Midt-Norge, the regional have been occupied with that. It should be user representatives in the research. And now it's time to start an evaluation. Is it really doing something? I think maybe there are differences between the basic research, which is a long time going process. And applied research, that maybe have a time perspective on 1 year or something, maybe 2 years. So, because in applied research, you can say if you can't write this introduction to the patient that you ask to participate. You, as a patient, we know better what kind of formulations that motivate patients or an earlier patient to say, yes, you can get data from me.
Yeah,
That's
actually
quite different.
Something you have helped us with,
Yeah.
like patient
Yeah.
consent and how we write that
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yes, that-
Yeah, so that's something
Yeah.
you have helped us a lot with.
But since you have mentioned this possibility of measuring the usefulness of of this involvement, well, my very strong impression from this conversation, but also from talking with you before, is that both of you think that it is valuable, that it has brought something that is worth the effort. But do you think these benefits are easy to capture, to pin down in something that is objective or measurable, or a sort of clear indicator, or do you feel that they are a little more intangible, and maybe it's better not do it too much research, because
I think maybe that's more
it's
in
good,
your
but
league
it's
of
difficult
research.
to show
Yeah.
why.
No, but as I said before, we need research. We need new knowledge to get on the every long process of being better. And of course, it's hard to say from one project, because basic projects will sometimes do work and find out this is not relevant. That's also a part of the research process. But then we know that. So we can go on with alternative methods. So I think it's valuable to, and it's valuable to get involved from the user perspective. And that is also, I was reading a bit on the Cancer Society's website earlier today, just to see what are they meaning. Mm-hmm. And they are pointing to that we can have perspectives as users that the researchers hadn't thought about, giving new problems to research on. I don't think it's that much in ProstOmics, but in applied research, I think it's more common.
And have there been any major challenges or things that proved frustrating or difficult in your collaboration?
No, I didn't have any frustrations, I have to say, but except from the beginning when I was accepting a high workload. But I mean,
yeah.
Just having you there,
yeah.
There's
I
no
think
work at all.
It's just an occasion that we were driving together before we started this, and we get known to each other. Had a nice lunch in Brekstad before my wife came with the hurtigbåten to the window. And Maya and the rest of the board went back to Trondheim, and I went to Stocksund. So I think this was not planned as an introduction to being a participant in user representative in the project. So that's, but so is life.
But I think also that you or I is probably a special user representative, and you have research background, and you kind of understand research probably much better than the general population of users. So maybe that's and also that we had good chemistry was a good thing.
Yeah.
So no solutions and conclusions on.
It's very good that there is this good chemistry, because you told me that you have some different views on some political topics around cancer research and cancer prevention strategies. So can you, but nonetheless you respect each other, and this is very good, because it's I think it's very important that this kind of disagreement are understood from each part, so that we can see that there are issues about which it's reasonable to have different views, and it's sort of a reasonable disagreement. And can you tell me how you see the politics of cancer research and cancer prevention, and if this engagement with each other has changed a little your perception of the politics of cancer research and cancer prevention?
I guess what we mostly don't agree on is, of course, the screening situation on prostate cancer, the PSA screening. You have heard about that. Because I don't think, my personal view is that we don't have tools enough in the clinic to actually separate those that are aggressive from those that are indolent and grow slowly. And that's why if we have screening, I think we will do treatment on a lot of more patients, and also those that maybe didn't need it. But that's something that we cannot measure either now, because we have also wild screening. But it's coming, I know that, because the European Association of Urology, they decided that it's a recommendation now. And then, so it's the politicians who have to figure out if we're going to have the screening or not in Norway. And since Sweden already started, I think also Norway will come. And this is also something that the Prostate Cancer Association are really activating and really want this into the society. And that's our maybe political disagreement, but yeah.
But that's what take the word further on. And if we get screening, then many more men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. And then it's even more important that projects like ProstOmics are succeeding in finding tools to split up the population of prostate cancer men in aggressive cancer and not aggressive cancer. So, because I think too that is coming, and that means it's even more important when it's coming that you got good results.
Yeah, I think it's coming pretty fast. So we'll see if I can do something really quick.
And that will be very good, because it's a well-known dilemma in public health that when you have preventive screening, that can issue into action. The risk is that this action will have a lot of benefit for some people who will be saved by this intervention, but will impose a cost on some patients who will have not needed the intervention. So there is always a trade-off between imposing a burden on some people to create a great benefit for other people. But if your project works and achieves this result, maybe we can remove this trade-off and only treat those who need treatment, and not impose any cost to other people.
If it hadn't been that difficult, so I mean, we have been trying, but we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, I think we are probably approaching the end. So, do you have maybe a very quick suggestion for making involvement successful to any project who is starting? Any recommendation?
for
How to
patient or
run,
former patient getting into?
yeah.
Be curious. Ask questions. And yes, I think that's, and if you know something about research, that's not a disadvantage. But you don't need to have it. We have many colleagues that use representatives that are not researchers or have been researchers. But when you are retired, you have more time. And I think it's very interesting to use that part of my time on being involved in research as you as a representative. If I can say, for many of you, you never get prostate cancer. And I have noticed when I'm on stand that very many men are just, it's a bit taboo to speak about prostate. But the wives and the daughters, they are more interested, and that their father or husbands should test themselves to early detection. I had some handouts like that I leave here from the Prostate Cancer Society in English, so that describe what prostate cancer is. So I just leave this at 10 copies that I had home. So, but it's been very interesting to be here.
And I also want to say that I really appreciate you, Ola,
Yeah.
that you are curious and that you want to spend your retirement time, precious time, to be within this project. So when this project finish, we'll find another project. Yeah.
But you're a very good host.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ola and Britt. It has been a very interesting conversation, and it has been a real pleasure to meet such remarkable people as you two. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.